we are almost at the top of the hour, so let's get into art mode. Excuse me. So again, you'll need 2 containers of water. You'll need your brushes. You'll need some paper towel if you've got it. If you want to use a credit card edge to do the little grasses at the bottom, that's fine. Excuse me, I have a number or 0 brush that I'm going to use. I'll just use short strokes, and you'll see how I do that as I do it. So picture is up. It is only 2 colors. It is cerulean blue and black. I think it might be called a midnight black. It's quite dark, but it, you know, and because some blacks are like a smoky gray black. Use and that's okay. If yours are gray, that's okay too. But use more paint, less water, and I think you'll find it'll be a lot darker. We're not going to use a blow dryer, and we're going to take our time with this because we want to get these bears as close to what bears look like and our trees. So, you know, we'll enjoy this project together. So looking forward to it. So this is Bear's outing day. And so let's get into art mode, and we'll take a few deep breaths. And I think I said last time, we'll just go into our heart, inside our heart. So we have a heart, but we have another one inside that kind of rules how we feel, what we let go of, where our innermost thoughts and dreams and desires are. So let's go there. And so we'll just take a deep breath in and let that go. And a second deep breath in from our heart, inside our heart. And let that go. And just drop your shoulders. Just feel all of that anxiety or any tension in your body just releasing. And a third deep breath in. And let that go. Just softening everything about you. And we'll paint from that place today. So, again, if you're just coming on, we've had some nice deep breaths from our inner heart, and you'll just need a couple of containers of water. You'll want paper towel if you've got it, because this will be really handy for making our clouds, because we do want some clouds in the sky. And our brushes, I've got anywhere from a 6 to a 0. And our colors are cerulean blue and black. If you don't have cerulean blue, whatever blue you have, I just used a nice bright happy blue. So it's entirely up to you, whatever blue you want to use. So with that, I'm going to turn my camera. Really, I am. There we go. I have my Bear's outing day on my easel. Let's just turn that a little bit. And I'm going to bring that down flat. Put that on the table. If you're painting from an easel, fine. If you're painting on a flat surface, that's fine. Whatever works for you. I just don't want the paint to run on this one. So I'm going to use my larger brush. So number 6. And I'm just dipping into water. So with clear water, I'm going to paint the sky just above the mountains. So I'm just painting all of the top above the mountains, just with clear
Cathy,
water.
are you talking yet?
Oh, yes. Yes, I am. Can anybody hear me?
I hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
All
we
right.
can hear you.
I hear you.
I hear you too.
Oh, okay, good. I thought, oh, wow, I've said a lot and nobody's heard anything. Okay, thanks. All right, so yes, I am talking, and so I am advising you, if you're able to, paint with water, just clear water above the mountains. And we have a stick down the side. So this is the trunk of the tree. So you can paint over that. And then I'm just going right up to the corners, right up to the top, just filling that all in, with clear water. So you can check, you can turn your canvas on an angle and look and see if there are any dry spots. And if there are, while it's still wet, you can just tap those with your brush, move that water around. And then I'm going into cerulean blue. So this is my cerulean blue. So I'm getting it on my brush, a good amount on the brush. And I'm just going to tap it around. I'm just tapping it onto the page. And because there's a lot of water and it's to my mountaintop, so I'll just get it to the mountaintops. So remember, this is just a piece of paper, not to get too stressed about it. Watercolor sometimes wants to go different places, so that's okay. And then I can turn my canvas. And as I turn it, you can see it's starting to move. Now I've got a lot of pooling here, so I'm going to pick that up with paper towel. I don't want too much excess on the edges. But I can turn this. You see it's still moving.
Cathy, I can't hear you, so I'm going to exit and come back in.
Okay. So you do want to have that paint right to your mountain top, though. We don't want a halo there. So where you've drawn your line, you want to have the paint come right to that line. So if you've got a little bit of a gap, like I have right here, there's a little bit of a gap. I'm just going to fill in that gap. And you see there's another gap here. Just a little gap there. So I'm going to fill that in, make sure that paint goes right to the mountaintop. Now, see, I've got some lights and darks in there. That's okay. I might like to have a little more on the other side, just a little extra on this side. And then I'm going to take my paper towel and just make a little ball. And I'm going to tap or roll a little bit and just lift off some of that paint. And that will give me clouds. Now, the beauty of this is if you're concerned, oh, I took off too much, I didn't want all of that off, you can add extra back on. It's still a little bit damp, so you can do that while it's still wet. And if you put too much on again and you want a little bit off, go ahead with your paper towel again. So as long as this is wet, you can play with it and make your sky what you want it to be. So you can see I have some lights and some darks. If I want to soften some of this, I can just use that paper towel, just soften some of that off. And it is a cloudy day, so it's not supposed to be perfect. If you look at a cloud, well, I think if we look at some skies, they really just look perfect. But it's not anything that anyone had control over. So if it's not identical to the person's next to you, don't judge your art by someone next to you. It's okay that it's different. And so again, while it's still wet, if you want to, you can use a little bit of a dampened paper towel and just lift off a little bit extra. That's up to you. And if you're happy the way it is, great. Just drop any tension in your body. Just release that. Just soften everything about you. And just relax during this art project. So now I'm not going to work on the mountains yet. If I work on the mountains, it may blur my blue. So I'm going to work on the bottom. So I'm working from the outside corner all the way across to the other corner. I'm dipping my brush in water only, and I like to get my brushes wet first, but I'm tapping any water off my brush. So it's just a dampened brush. And then I'm going into my black. So if your black is like a gray black and you want it to be darker, then use more paint than water. So I have black on my brush. I'm not going to do every inch of the bottom. I'm going to start at the corner, come across under the bears, but I want a few white spots left. So I want it to look like they're standing in snow. So I've left some white. So it's not completely solid. Now that was using the larger brush, so I'm switching from my larger brush to my smallest brush, which is a 0. It's a small pointed brush. And I'm going to paint these bears in black. So this may be the most time-consuming part of our painting, is to get these bears done. So I'm going to do the outer edge first. So if you need to take a deep breath while you're doing this, just relax. So that was my 0 brush to do the outer edge. Excuse me, and now I'm moving to a number 2 because I want to do the center. So I'm going to fill it in. And I'm going in periodically getting fresh paint Trying not to make that paint that I put on stretch too thin because I want it to look quite solid. Oh, your dog is eating your paintbrushes. That's not good. That's a costly thing. I wonder if you could put something on it that your dog wouldn't like the taste of. Actually, I think your dog eats everything, if I remember that. All right, now I'm switching back to my smaller brush for the outline of the mama bear. And when you're painting your bears, as far as their feet, their legs go or their feet go, it's important that they're on solid ground, that they're not in the middle of the air, that they're actually on the ground. And back to my number 2 to fill in mama bear. And the reason we're moving from up in the sky down to the bottom and then to the bears is so we're giving that earth or the sky, excuse me, and our clouds time to dry before we get into those mountains. And I'm just going to run a little bit of that dark black that's on my brush underneath the bear, underneath both those bears, just to make sure I've got a nice dark footing for them. So it's just a little bit darker because I did dry a little bit lighter, so I just want to darken that just a little bit more and almost a shadow underneath. And then back to my zero brush and black. Just outline my little bear. And if you need to, when you're painting, if you find that you have an awful lot of paint on your brush, if it's too much, you can roll your brush, just roll it and clear it, and then just get paint on the tip of your brush. And then you won't find you have that clumping. So there's one little bear ready to play. And we'll do bear number 2. Their legs are a little bit wider up at the body and a little more narrow when they come to the ground. And as I said, this is the most meticulous part of this project, is these little bears. So this is testing. This will give this picture lots of energy, though, with a life source, a life force in it. And a little bit of shadowing underneath those little bears. And remember, if you're tensed while you're doing this, just drop those shoulders down and just soften everything. Take a deep breath if you need to. Smile. It is a nice day for an outing if you're a bear. And if you're in Australia, I know it's extremely hot there right now. If you're in BC, it's extremely cold right now. If you're in Iqaluit, it's almost unbearable. All right, let's move up to those mountains now. So we're not painting the front of the mountains. They're going to remain white. You can still paint over this trunk of this tree. You can paint right over the trunk of the tree. But we're not painting between the bear and these lines. We're leaving it all white. So with my number 2 brush and just straight black, I'm going to start to paint these mountains. So starting at the top, the highest peak, I'm just going to outline the top at the sky and come down to the outer edge. And while you're doing that, I'll read our card. Our card says, the card for today says, my happiness is a direct reflection of how quickly I can shift my perceptions from fear to love. My happiness, or your happiness, or anyone's happiness, is a direct reflection of how quickly we can shift our perceptions from fear to love. So how long does that take you? You allow yourself a 90-second break when something happens and you're in fear, and then you go, oh, I don't need to be fearful. All is good. All is what it should be. If you allow yourself a time limit to be in that state of fear and move quickly out of it, you'll be much happier. Underneath that line that I've drawn, I'm going to follow along the other line I've drawn to the outer edge. And I think it was Monica that drew that card today, so thank you for that, Monica. And from the top of the mountain, I'm going to fill this section in black. So we're just working a little bit at a time. We'll work our way across the mountains. If you're way ahead and you've already got your mountains all done, good for you. I'm just working a little bit at a time. And coming back to that peak. I'm coming down, and this is just almost like strawberry sauce or chocolate sauce pouring over. You just got this running down. We'll just fill that in. And just have some fun with it. If it gets a little bit bigger, that's okay. If you want to put a nice point to it, that's great. That's up to you. If you want it more rounded, that's okay as well. So there's our first mountain peak. We'll come over to the other side. Underneath, I'm drawing that line up. And from the top of the sky, I'm coming to the peak. And then I'm going to fill that section in. I'm still going over that tree trunk. That's okay. And we talked about whether or not you had full black. I think actually I was thinking midnight black, but I think my black is called lamp black, if I remember. And some of you might have a gray, and gray on the mountains is a beautiful shadow as well. Coming over that peak, down to the other side of that mountain. And I've got a little heart shape in there. I can bring that right down a little bit farther. And mine's got a little bit bigger, that's okay. And I've got that one mountain in the center. I'm just going to follow that line up just to give it that definition. And remember, it's just a piece of paper. If you need to or want to, you can come back, you can do it again. You could try it with different colors. You could alternate. You could leave the bears white, make the bottom of the mountain black, leave the peaks white. Lots of different ways we could do these mountains. Now from here, I'm just going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to add a few sprigs of grass just with black and my number 0 brush. As I've said, if you want to use a credit card edge. So if I have a card and I put on a clump of paint, fairly wet, and use a credit card, just the corner, I'm just using the corner edge, and I can pull up, and that will give me some nice grasses. And remember, grass grows all different ways. So sometimes it crosses over, sometimes it curls a little bit. So you could do it that way. Or if I come down the other side and use my 0 brush, and I can just use small feathery strokes and just move those grasses around. They're going to be at the base of the tree, so they should show up a little bit at the base of the tree. And so either way, that's using a brush and that's using a credit card. So you get a nice look of a feathery look with using the card, where the other is more pointed. So it's entirely up to you, but that's both shown. And then we're going to do two coniferous trees. One will be thicker than the other, wider, with my 0 brush and black paint. I'm going to paint that trunk, and it's way up in the sky. Now I am going to roll my brush again because I've got a lot of paint all the way through. And for this, I only want it on the tip. Starting from the top. You could start from the bottom if you want, but I'm starting from the top, coming all the way down. And still using my 0 brush. And I've got paint on the tip. I'm going to start a little bit of a zigzag pattern on my tree. It's going to be a little bit wider at the bottom than it was at the top. And now from here, I'm going to start to fill that in. So coniferous trees don't always have a straight top. Sometimes they have a little bit of an extra branch that just kind of sticks out in the middle of nowhere. And these branches typically go downward. Sometimes they're a little thicker in the middle. Sometimes there's spaces missing. So I'm working with what I've put there, that zigzag pattern. I'm just filling in the extra branches. Still just using black. And if I want to give it a little bit of a different look here and there, I can put just a few dots. But the branches aren't always going to go in the same direction. Some just go straight out. Some actually go up. And some go down. And here and there, I'll just put in a few dots. And I've got my little bush coming out from underneath behind it. So this tree is fairly narrow. Kind of a sparse Charlie Brown Christmas tree, if you will. So play with it until you like it, but just be careful not to overdo it. Doesn't need to be. The bears are really the focal point at the base of the mountain. The trees kind of frame the scene. And we'll move over to the other tree. So not to rush you if you're still working on your tree. I don't want to rush anyone.
I'm back.
Well, welcome back.
I was having problems with my computer.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, I started on my own, so we'll see what happens.
Okay. And we'll look at the other tree. And the other tree, again, I'm going with my zero brush, excuse me, with black, just making sure I only have paint on the tip. So again, rolling that brush. And this tree is not as high as the other tree. So it only is about the same height as the mountain. And I'll bring that trunk all the way down. We are going to put a lot of branches on this tree, so it doesn't have to be a perfectly straight trunk. But again, I'm going to do that zigzag pattern starting at the top. And it's wider, it's a bigger tree. And I'll start just to fill in a few branches here and there. Make a funny little top. And again, we can put a few dots here and there. And I would like that tree to have a little more solid ground. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker under that tree as well. Still leaving some lightness and a look of snow underneath my bears. I think I'm going to give my little tree on the right-hand side a little bit more substance at the bottom. And I've added just some little buds on the tops of my branches at the side. Not the tree branches, but the little weeds that are coming out. And the same on this side, just adding a few little buds on the top. So there they are, side by side, pretty similar. So what's missing is my signature. So if you are able to or want to put your signature somewhere in your art. There. Thank you so much, everyone.